Well,
So
it's part of the.
I was still going over how we're going. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
We have an idea,
okay.
so we're.
All right, you can
Ask that question.
Cut all this.
Ask that question again.
Take 42.
I'm out. I don't look skinny sideways either.
You're usually thinner profile sideways than you are.
Well, I can
straight
suck
on.
it in. I can't suck in the
But
sides.
you're still here, though. You're still
I know,
wide.
but I can't suck the sides in. I can only suck this in.
you see how they talk?
Is it recording now?
Yeah, we're recording.
Can you get this?
Because there's somebody like us and somebody like me that is out there going, okay, my group wants to, that's a cool idea. Where do I start?
What do we need? What do you got to take? Got to take a tent.
You know me, I just got fly by the seat of my pants.
That's right.
Let's go.
I was going with you.
All right.
So, this is our final video for the Newfoundland trip that we took in August of 2023. It's Wayne over there, Greg, John, Rob. This is the Core 4, Not Done Yet Adventures. So, going back to what we were talking about before, August of 2023 is when we finally did the trip. It was a bucket list item for me. I talked these guys into machines. He'd already had a machine, but I talked him into another one.
He's like a drug pusher.
Yeah.
I knew I needed a better one when going to Newfoundland. So, Newfoundland.
So the planning part of it, and this is for people that want to do this and don't, I went into it just seeing a video. Crossing Newfoundland by ATV.com is the website, and he's got a bunch of packing tips, pretty much everything. Anything you want to know about going across Newfoundland, he puts it on there.
When you reached out to Patrick, how did you reach out to him? What was your means? Did you call him or?
I started with email. I just introduced myself, told him about what we were trying to do. He was said he thought it was great that he encourages everybody. If you watch any of his videos, he's encouraging everybody to do this. He does it. Yeah. I think he's on, I don't know, double-digit trips over there. And he takes sometimes a few guys or sometimes a big group, and they do different variations. But yeah, he was really cordial. And as you guys saw in our video series, the Canadians in general were extremely nice to us.
Absolutely.
I'm sure we'll get to that. These guys will probably weigh in on that, but that's what I got from Patrick. He was all kinds of information, no problem whatsoever, giving me, and I would ask questions, and he would follow them up, and it went from there. But yeah, I planned it out to do before COVID happened, and of course I got canceled. I planned it again towards the end of COVID, got canceled again. And we were finally able to do it in August of 2023, and we had a group of 9 machines, 10 guys. Is that what it was?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is about that trip. You guys can check out the video series that we just did with that. But this is to inform everybody of what goes into making this a reality. But yeah, that's it for the planning. You guys can talk about.
So in our planning, one of the things we had to plan for was equipment. Like how are we going to spend nights, days, gas? Did we have to carry extra gas? All of that kind of stuff. Which we carried gas, and we used them on our quads.
Mm-hmm. And we did find out the extreme length of time you could run on fuel without fueling up. when the E starts blinking, you got a little bit
You're
of time.
close to the end
Yeah, so
on an RMAX.
on the RMAX, you get the E, and then you get a little warning bell there. But when it starts blinking, you probably want to get somewhere.
You're running,
Well, let's talk-
fumes.
Let's talk about how many miles we went before you went to that blinking E thing. 'Cause we only really had 2 long days, right? Everything else was under 75 miles.
Yeah, and one of the 2 days that was long, we altered the course to get away from those alders when we did the plane crash. That changed.
That was the day that we were all
that changed the mileage.
because we started out full.
Yeah, I think we started every day full.
That was the day that I thought I was sleeping out in the wilderness.
When we
And
go through
hoping-
the elders.
No, when we were going through the valley and everybody's blinking, everybody's going, I'm on E, I'm on E, my E's blinking.
But how many miles did you figure we'd gone that day?
It was over 100.
I think.
Yeah, I want to say it was 125 or
That's what I
140, something like that.
Everything else was under 100 except for those 2 days.
All right. So in terms of fuel, there was enough places to stop for fuel.
Yeah,
How
and
much
that
fuel
goes
do we
into the
carry?
planning. That goes into the planning stage. So, you get with that website, his channel on Facebook and his answering questions. He kind of, we got maps from him, which he's done maps where fuel stops, where to eat, where to get groceries,
Where to stay.
where you can get repairs done if you need it.
Yeah.
So a lot of the work was done ahead of time. But I will say that if I wouldn't have kept researching stuff, it's a big undertaking if you think about it. It's a 26-hour truck ride with a trailer just to get to the ferry, and then you got to get on a ferry for 16 hours. So, and there's apprehension about, okay, you're on an island in Canada. What if I didn't pack enough stuff? What if I didn't take enough fuel? What if we don't find the right trail? But because of all the pre-planning stuff, and because we had done it before COVID, I had several times to plan this and keep watching videos and doing research and bouncing ideas off you guys. With that, there was no apprehension when we started the trip going there, for me. But I think if we would have done that first one, I probably would have been in trouble. Because I knew a lot more after that first planning before COVID, when I got to 2023
I had more time
trip.
to research.
Well, yeah, you're sitting around, it's, like I said, it's a bucket list item. I first brought it up to him at work one day, and I said, look, I'm doing this. Whether you go or not, I'm doing this, and I'm going to invite John, we'll get Wayne, we'll get whoever to go. I said, this is what I want to do. So, as far as the planning stuff, I think we had plenty of time, but you can't go into it thinking, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing or whatever. You just got to go do it.
So what are some of the essentials that you need to take? We camped, so I think each of us had for our buggy, we had tents.
Yep.
So we had sleeping arrangements for anywhere. We slept on a beach, so we could sleep anywhere we had to, but we also had arrangements. You had booked a couple places for us to also stay, so we could get showers, do laundry, if we needed to do.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about the getting off the ferry. The ferry ended up being very nice. We could take showers on the ferry and everything, but it's a boat. I didn't know what.
You could leave chalupas on the ferry too.
Yeah. So the first night we stayed in a hotel, and that gave us a chance to get there, and it worked out pretty good because we got a late start off the boat. That whole got held up at the North Sydney dock, and we were late getting in.
Yeah.
So it would have been tough going to a place and setting up camp on the first night that late. So we got into the hotel, we got organized, we made sure gear was where it was supposed to be. It was kind of a shakedown, I think. And then from there, everything was easy after that, I felt. We dealt with the rain that we had real well. That didn't cause any problems. Considering, if you watch the videos, considering that some guys don't have wipers, you would think, oh God, they can't ride in the rain, but we managed. It wasn't a big deal. It actually was. I had fun riding in the rain. You get wet, you're wet. We had rain gear, all that, but the biggest thing for me was, you got to look at your machine, how much you can carry. And we had never done anything like that. We just rode locally, and you don't really have to carry a whole lot of stuff, but. So you had to, and I relied on stuff that I'd seen from, Patrick and other people that have done it, what to take, what not to take. We kind of got together and, talked about the list and stuff like that. And basically, before we left, everybody had a list of packing tips and, who's carrying what. We didn't need 4 compressors. We didn't need, 4 medical kits. We didn't, all that stuff. We could save space where guys were taking this item and I didn't have to bring mine, or John didn't have to bring his. Or,
Gave everything to Keith.
yeah. That was a nice thing too.
Brought it in a chuck
If
wagon.
you saw the video, he's got that 4-seat General, and he took out 3 of the 4 seats because it was a solo on the machine, and he had a fridge, he had a shower, he had a toilet, he had, he carried probably way too much, although the toilet did get used on the trail. We never used the shower, but it was nice having him to carry extra stuff for us.
Sure.
So we could resupply in a town or something, and he could keep stuff cold in the fridge, and instead of, put ice in a cooler, it only lasts so long. So that was nice having that fridge.
So we did make 2 stops before we ever got to the boat. We did stay 2 nights, one in Boston and one just inside Canada, wasn't it?
Yeah,
At a
it was about 40 minutes south of North Sydney.
Okay.
The names in our videos, I'm not going to try to say it because it's French Canadian stuff, and I'll butcher the name. But that's a key. Wayne brings up a key point, because tell them what you did on the way back, Wayne.
What did you do on the way back?
Yeah, we drove. Keith and I drove 24 hours straight back. Actually, I think it was more like 25 hours straight back, because my daughter was starting college that day. Well, not starting college, but I had to move into her dorm as a freshman. So it was pretty important that I be there for her and my wife. I think more my wife than my daughter, to keep her sanity. But so we drove straight through the night, got home, jumped in the truck, and then drove my daughter to college.
How'd you feel driving that much?
Yeah, I was a little tuckered out. At one point, when Keith was driving, I was sitting in the passenger seat and had fallen asleep. And when I woke up, we were in a truck stop and we were both sleeping. So luckily, Keith had the wherewithal to say, you know what, I've had too much. We need to take a little snooze here.
Yeah.
So we snoozed about, I don't know, he snoozed probably about a half hour, 45 minutes, and then we got back on the road. I was probably out hour and a half because I had fallen asleep while he was driving.
So that's one of the planning things you got to take into consideration. At first we were all planning on, let's drive straight through and rotate drivers. I don't think I would have enjoyed the trip.
No.
At least
We'd
the
have been
first part
so
of it.
tired.
Yes.
But that was, we kind of were going to do that because we knew we could sleep on the boat.
Well, and the fare was set up nice because it gave you the option. You could either stay in a seat and not pay for a cabin and certainly fall asleep in a seat,
Which a bunch of people did.
which a bunch of people did. But I think for us, it was well worth the expense to get the cabins, and then we just split the expenses.
Yeah.
And for those of you that think you know what a ferry is, you have no idea what a ferry is until you see this thing.
It's
Huge.
a boat.
There were 300 or 400 cars on it.
And semis.
Semis.
And
Semis
Yeah.
and I think 1,800 people or something.
And I think the funny thing about when we tell people, because we were just at Mines and Meadows this weekend, and when we tell people about we did this trip, and they're like, oh, really? You crossed? And the one thing is, when we tell them that we were able to drive our wheelers right onto the ferry, they're like, seriously? I said, no, we left our trucks and trailers on the mainland, and we drove right on the ferry, drove right out the ferry, and hit the trail right there.
But that was the plan, because we were
Yes.
going from one side of the island to the other,
Yep.
taking 2 different ferries from 2 different
Yep.
ports back to the same port.
And I
was on
guess
the
people
mainland.
that do power sports and stuff, when you think of that, it's like, well, they let you take because you don't see that in the States. You don't see,
Right.
Some states are different. You go to West Virginia, you're allowed to ride on any road down there pretty much, but a lot of states you're not allowed to do that.
Right.
And it was, pretty unique when you tell people that hey, yeah, you just load up your ferry, you load up the wheeler and put it right on the ferry, drive right on there, drive right off, and you're on the trail.
And for
So,
the-
but that planning for the drive there, I think we did the smart thing on the way up there, and
Yeah, I agree.
we stopped in Boston, and then stopped about 40 minutes south of North Sydney. And the Boston leg of it was we got there late at night, and we were tired. we were tired going into the next day. But I think when we woke up from that, right before the day we were supposed to leave to get on the ferry, woke up at that campground, I was pretty refreshed.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And then of course you get on the ferry, and it's a 16-hour ferry ride. And,
Yeah. Well, the ferry was nice because they did have a nice restaurant in there, and they served breakfast, lunch, and dinner at reasonable rates, I thought. They even had a senior discount. They offered me the senior discount. I think the lady thought I was a little bit older than what I really am.
He is really.
And
It was either she thought I was older or she thought I was hot. I'm not quite sure which.
I'm sure it was older.
As the young guy of the group, it was older.
And the other thing about the ferry is we planned the trip so that we were traveling on the ferry through the night.
yes.
So we got on in the evening, and by morning when we got there, we slept through the night.
Yeah.
But you don't have to do that. You could take the ferry through the day if they were offering it at that time. So we planned it so we were going to sleep, get up, and then we were ready to rock and roll the next
Yeah,
morning.
and if you look at the website for that ferry terminal and look at the cabins, don't pay attention. You can see how big I am. I was completely comfortable in that bed.
Absolutely.
The room seems small. When you look at the picture, it's like, oh, God, am I going to fit in there? Am I going to fit in there with my two boys, both of which are big guys too? I was completely comfortable. Slept great on the boat.
The weather was pretty nice. I didn't feel much motion at all.
No.
It was just enough to kind of lull you to sleep. It was just.
I thought that was you singing to me.
No, it wasn't me singing to you.
Recommend the 4 cabin. That's the way to go. Put 4 guys in it, save the money. It's plenty of room.
Or 2.
Or 2, yeah.
Chris and I shared a room. That was fine. Plenty of room.
But yeah, I mean, that's, the planning part of it. You don't have apprehension about it. It's not that difficult. There's enough stuff out there now, and you can watch our videos, and you can contact us. Feel free to contact any one of us. We got a Facebook page.
So I would say, how if someone's watching this and they go, you know what, I need to get a hold of these guys. I want more information.
Well, there's our social media director right there.
How will
That was given to me.
contact
Nobody else
us?
wanted it.
Yeah. So how are they going to contact us, Wayne?
Oh, through our Facebook site, Not Done Yet Adventures. On Facebook, we also have a YouTube page, Not Done Yet Adventures, as well.
And I think it notifies us if someone makes a comment.
Notifies us if we get a comment.
So if someone put in there like, hey, but Facebook, and then if they message you or message, because we all can see it,
Yep.
then someone's going to pick up on it. And then at that point, if someone's serious about it, then it could probably turn into an email or something like that
Well, they can email.
through Facebook.
notdoneyetadventures@gmail.com.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
So there's lots of ways of getting a hold of us.
I don't know that we'll answer.
Our media guys
Yeah,
on it.
we have to keep in mind we got a few elderly guys, so there's really only one.
Why are you
that
pointing at Rob?
answers.
Greg's older than I am. So is John.
I again am the youngest of the group.
I'm the 3rd youngest of this group.
I may be the oldest, but I certainly look the youngest.
And I may be second oldest, but I look the best.
What?
So going back to, I think it's really important to finish up that conversation about what we're taking with us.
Yes.
And we talked about driving a lot of miles, but we really didn't have to use our gas, our spare gas. I only took 1 gallon can, and I never had to use it.
I think we used most of our gas for the quads.
For the quads,
Yeah.
because the quads don't have the same range.
Right.
I don't think I don't remember putting gas in mine. Maybe one time,
I
a
don't
little
remember
bit that
doing
was
any
left
out of a
over.
can.
Yeah.
So there's enough gas stations
Yeah.
if you do your research in advance. That's the
Yep.
key. Doing your research in advance, knowing where fuel stops are. We used Gaia,
Yeah.
and other folks that have used the Gaia have dropped those fuel stops into that software.
Before you go any further, what is Gaia for people that don't understand, that have never heard of Gaia?
So it's really meant for trails, for trail hiking and things like that, but it's really morphed into what we use for our side-by-side trips. It's not as popular, I think, as Ride Command. I like Ride Command, I think, better because I can see where the other riders are.
Mm-hmm.
But when we were researching maps and things like that for Newfoundland, there wasn't much on there through Ride Command. There was, however, because of North Coast ATV, a bunch of stuff already in Gaia. And I think that's why we migrated towards Gaia for this particular trip. But there's other mapping software that we could use. We all have Adventure Pro or some version of it in our ride, but we really didn't use that. It's not
Tracking.
It's not, maybe for distributing breadcrumbs or something like that. But
I just use mine to monitor my machine.
yeah, that's all I use mine for.
Well, if you're gonna, the other thing too is that's part of the planning too. If you're gonna do a trip like this, you got to have some kind of mapping solution. The phone, some guys can use the phone. The phone's awful small, to me. That's me personally. Having a tablet, so we've all gone to tablets, and
So we had tablets and we had Garmin GPS
so that's
connection, so that we always had connection.
Except me, I
yeah,
have one of
that's
those dang old Android things that I can't stand, but it does have a built-in GPS in it. That
Okay.
I didn't need to have the separate GPS.
Yeah, and I think, Greg, you put a link for the Garmin Glow 2 GPS receiver. It's about this big
On one of
the videos.
Yeah.
But yeah, the iPad, old guys with eyes, you can move it around. Phone, you just, if you're driving, it's hard to see a phone, but we put the tablets in.
And I charged mine in it, and I never had to charge it for the whole trip. It ran the whole time.
I think the other poignant thing we need to point out is the comm radios that we have to be able to communicate with each other as we're riding, because it's real easy, especially when you get into elder bushes and stuff, to get one goes around a curve and there's a Y there and you don't know which way somebody went, and you can't trust me when I say you cannot see the people ahead of you in those elder bushes if you're not right behind them. The curve happens and then they're just gone. Literally bushes touching both sides of your machine and top of your machine as you're driving through.
Although I think they've cleared a lot of that out. They've been working on it.
Yeah, that's on the web.
Yeah.
I think you found the deal on the radios, right,
Jerry did.
Jerry?
Yeah.
So,
We went with the rugged 25s. Plenty enough channels for what we do.
They work well. We never ran out of
The only
connection.
thing that I would say about the GMRS radios is that you are required to have a license for it. And when I got mine, it was $70 for 10 years. They reduced that price to $35, as I understand it, for a 10-year license.
But the test was very, very difficult.
Yeah, you had to know your name.
but invest in a radio. That's because we use radios even when we're, we just got
Local,
back
right?
from Mines and
even
Meadows.
if it's handheld.
Yep.
If you can't.
Now the quads had handhelds.
Yeah.
The Armaxes or the side-by-sides had the mounted unit, the 25-watt one. But that's a must. I mean, we use it all the time now.
Yeah. So we
Didn't think we would, but we do. So
we talked a little bit about fuel. We've talked about communications. What else did we
had
mapping. Talk about mapping
software. The one thing I wanted to point out about food, we had plenty of food, but we ran into an evening when we stayed in Serpentine Lake where it was so windy we had no ability to cook the food that we'd purchased. So on that particular night we ate muffins for dinner. So I guess a recommendation would be have those ready to eat meals.
We're not going to starve.
Yeah, we're not going to starve, obviously, but you want to have something in place where you can just crack a can and don't have to worry about heating it up to eat.
And there was a couple times that we had let someone else do the cooking. Pirates Cove, they did a nice spread for us.
Yeah, Keith paid for a meal for us.
And our first night when we stayed in the hotel, we just ate at the restaurant because we got in late that night. We didn't want to.
So the first and last night we set it up so we'd have a nice place to stay.
Yep.
And the other places were nice. Beach was nice. I really loved that. But
yeah,
we stayed in a hotel. We could do laundry and get ready. We could do laundry at the end before we got on the boat. We had spots in the middle where we could stop in and do laundry.
That was important. It cut down on the amount of
because
clothes
you don't have to
had
carry that many clothes then.
Yeah.
We carried.
Speaking of the beach, you have to be willing to change your course as needed, because we got rain one day. We were all soaked and decided that was a night we were supposed to stay on another beach. We decided to go in and we went into Howley and met the mayor, and it was the greatest. I think the greatest thing we probably did. But I will say probably my most favorite night on the island was Serpentine Lake, even though we didn't get to really eat.
And that was
the only downfall.
That was a struggle with Chris's machine, and someone was already camping where we were going to camp. So then we had to find another spot to go. I mean, so we had to change direction on the fly.
Gale force winds while we're trying to set up our tent, and then after we got our tents all set up, it quit.
As soon as the sun went down.
And that says something about that. So the way we set up our maps, the reason we could get on the fly, change plans and go to Howley and get cabins or cottages or whatever you call those, was because we had all those spots marked on that map with information about where people have stayed. And instead of just planning our route, I put everything on the map. So I was able, we were at the Gaff, and it was pouring down rain, and we had been soaked for a day and a half. Gear was wet, and I just punched up the map, got the phone number. We were up on a mountain, so we called. Sure, we got a place to stay.
Well, they had to cancel it. We got lucky. They had a cancellation because it was raining so much. The group that was supposed to come in was staying at the place they were at for another night. So
I think we could have stayed on the beach, but it was
we were all kind of miserable already.
Yeah.
Well, that's another
a chance
thing.
to dry everything out.
You don't want to tie your stuff down using bungee cords in the rain, or bungee nets in the rain.
Why not, Greg?
Because the bungee nets stretch out, and then all the contents in the back of your ride ends up dragging behind you.
And you have to stop. But you have to stay in your hoopty because your emergency brake or your parking brake might not work.
Shh, I sold that machine.
Well, it's fixed now.
One of the things about planning is make sure you got waterproof stuff.
All right, so
that's important because it's an island and they get rain.
And they always get rain, so know that you're going to get rained on.
So the question then is the time of the year that we took the trip. If you had the opportunity to do it 2 weeks later, would you do it then? Because we went through a lot of rain in that August period.
Yeah.
Maybe September would have been a better time.
Well, I guess you have to look and see what.
Yeah, it's hit and miss.
I think with that island, it's probably a lot like where we live around here, Cedar Point, in Sandusky, Ohio, where the weather can just change like that.
Yeah. You just plan for it. That's the big thing. We all had rain gear.
Yeah.
We all knew going in to carry rain gear. We all had waterproof containers or bags, and the only reason stuff got soaked, and my clothing didn't get soaked, but what I had on was soaked: boots, socks, underwear, shirt, because it rained so hard it went right through the rain gear.
Well, in some cases, my stuff was wet underneath, and that was just purely sweat.
From
wearing the rain suit.
Yeah. So we had so let's get back to our equipment because our evening is running short as that sun goes down. But we also took a griddle. We all had the 1 pound. We all took some small LP containers tanks to cook on the griddle,
right?
Because they won't let you on the ferry take the 20 pounder.
Right.
So we all took what we could. We had more than enough. In fact, we never even used any of mine.
And it seems to me that the ferry said you could have 2 1 pound containers, but they never checked. And they never even asked us.
No, but I guess they're on their system. But I guess if you get
us honorable,
but the Canadians, they're pretty trusting.
If you get checked, you don't want to get into pinch where you gotta leave something on the mainland because you can't take it on.
True.
So
going back to the boat, when you take your machine onto the boat, you will not be able to return to your machine once you've exited the parking area. So you need to take whatever you need on that 16-hour boat trip with you.
And you know this how?
Because, I didn't try to go back. Somebody tried to go back there and they got shut down.
Well, no, you know this because you had no toiletries.
Yes, you're right. I did not have any toiletries.
Oh, so you're saying take toiletries with you on this trip?
Well, I brought toiletries. I left them in my machine, and then when I got up there, I'm like, I left it down in my machine, and then they told us we couldn't go
Doors
back.
were already closed.
Couldn't go back down to the machine. So make sure you take whatever you need
And because
With
you're
you.
camping, you're gonna need towels, washcloths if you want them, soap, shampoo, whatever, anything and everything you would need. Because you're not staying in a hotel where the little bar is gonna be sitting on the counter for you. And even though I don't remember about the cabins at the end, but I don't even think they had towels, but they didn't have soap. And the only one that had soap for us was the very first hotel. It was like a real hotel.
Yep.
So if you're paying attention, when you get to one that has the soap, take it with you.
Well, the other thing too is I would say that when you're sitting down to plan this trip, it was a little overwhelming on what we wanted to see and what to cut out. And I went in with the approach that I want to see as much as possible within the limits of driving to the place to place. Got the mileage down, all that stuff, and we took frequent stops. I mean, if you look at most of the videos we put, the time, the miles traveled compared to how much time we were on the trail, and it also gave you how much downtime we had from stopping. But that's part of the reason why I really enjoyed this trip, was stopping and seeing all these things.
Well,
There's water everywhere, number one.
Yep.
There's waterfalls. There's rock formations everywhere. They call it the Rock. There's little towns. There's just so much to see, so much history. Greg interviewed people. You'll see that in our videos. The best interview, I think, two interviews that I really enjoyed that you did was the kid, Ed Howley,
Yep.
young kid that worked there. He drove us down to where they just put pavement down, and they had upgraded the water system, and he gave us a history of that little inlet and the rail pass. And then of course you guys got the history of the moose from the mayor,
From Brian. Yep, the mayor.
and Brian, who we met on the trail. And the other interview was that lady on the beach,
On the quad.
with the yellow Can-Am,
Yeah.
just talking about living there her whole life and what she enjoyed about it. Everything but the taxes, Trudeau.
Oh, that's right, she did.
She mentioned that. Yeah.
But
But we don't want to get too political here. We don't want to make anybody angry.
But I think
We lose subscribers that
if
way.
you plan this, try to hit as much as you can. Now, they say the West Coast has got the more sites, but I think there was stuff across the whole way.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was a
I'm glad we
phenomenal
didn't.
trip.
I'm glad we didn't just
Yep.
go to the west, because that was one of the discussions. Maybe we just do, but we did the whole Rock, and I'm glad
Yep,
that we did
yep.
that.
The one thing that I found very interesting, we also RV, a couple of us, and there are a number of YouTubers that RV across the island as well, but they didn't get a chance to see any of the sites that we saw.
Right.
They're limited by their transportation.
And the road.
Mhm.
They're stuck on a main road where we were on a rail, and we drove up mountains that you're not going to get to even in a
Or walk up a mountain.
Crossed rivers.
or walk up. Yeah.
Yep.
But you're not going to
rivers.
drive your car to the plane crash, and go visit that site. You got to be on a hoopty to do that.
Speaking of the plane crash, if anybody there in Canada tells you it's a half mile to the plane, try to remember that they don't know what a mile is. They think in kilometers. It is not a half mile.
And it's not a half kilometer either.
It is a long, long way.
I think
Both
at
ways.
this point, I mean, there's a lot of stuff goes into it, but don't panic on it. It's a worthwhile trip. Try to see as much as you can, but at this point, I think what I'd like to do is go around the group here and say, what you liked, what you didn't like. Let's do likes first.
Can we finish with equipment?
Sure. What do you want to talk
What other
about?
equipment?
Well, the one thing
You still got ideas about equipment, right?
Yeah, I do, and I think that's important. We carried with us a solar power station to charge batteries for our cameras.
It wasn't we. It was Greg carried it.
Well, Greg carried it, but
I had a battery.
yeah.
I had a battery that.
Yeah, but not like his.
Well, I have a CPAP machine.
That's true.
So now I have medical equipment that I got to take with me,
Yes.
and how are you going to do it when you're camping? So I have a battery that I had charged up, and Chris and I shared that across the island, but I was able to charge it in my buggy as we were driving down the road, and once it's charged, I just put it away. So even in the rain, I was able to charge it because it wasn't getting wet. But you had the ability to solar charge yours.
I didn't bring it with me.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I just
Okay.
I figured out what I needed in amp hours for the batteries. I don't use a CPAP. I'm supposed to, but I figured out about what I would use in the course of an evening to blow up my air mattress,
Yep.
to charge my phone, to charge the camera batteries and things like that. And I had enough charge coming from my ride to do that.
And more.
And more. Oh, yeah.
Charge
for
all
sure.
my stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So what kind of battery do you have? I have an Echo Flow, so we could use it for a couple nights on our CPAP machine. But I was going DC, and Chris was plugged in AC. If I just do DC, it would have lasted the whole trip. If it was just me, what do you have?
I have an Echo
Yeti.
Flow as well.
Don't you have a Yeti?
No, it's not a Yeti.
Goal Zero?
That's it. It's a Goal Zero.
Yeah.
Thank you. Goal Zero.
Yeah.
1,000 amp
Know
hours.
your equipment, people.
Yeah, no kidding. 1,000 amp hour. And I had way more than I needed. For
Or
sure.
bring somebody that knows your equipment.
All right.
Right. Now it's recording. See, is there a little red light blinking back here?
Yes.
Okay, that means it's on record. So when it's not blinking, you're just filming nothing.
Let me see that. Okay, Greg. You see the camera?
I see the camera.
You see that red light?
Yes.
That's telling you that I'm recording you.
Yeah, I got
and
that.
if you're recording me, see the red light?
Yeah.
So now here's-
That's telling you
I
that
just-
you're recording me.
So here is the question. How many of those interviews that he did today were
Was he
actually
not
recording?
Hey, what do you think of the country? Nothing. 20 interviews he did today. Nothing's on there.
Oh man, he's like, this card's.
We better have whiskey on there.
The whiskey's got to be on there. That was the best interview.
This is a bottomless card, man. It never runs out.
What other kind of equipment? Here's something that we thought about and opted not to, that maybe I would take, because we all have tire jack in our tires, but none of us had a spare tire, and we got lucky. We didn't need to get a spare tire, but because you're running on old rails, probably a spare tire. I mean, we can all have shared, if we had to, one tire in case we needed it.
No.
And we didn't take any other drive shafts or anything like that. We were relying on, if we fell into that problem, we were going to have to find it on the island. And I don't know that, it's not like here, I don't know that that stuff's going to be as available as you might want it to be.
Jerry, are you listening, Jerry? Greg's going to put you in a headlock.
Jerry's gonna put you in a headlock because Wayne, Greg, and who was the other one? And Jerry are gonna go together as a threesome.
Jesus.
No, how many times could we have used him on this trip?
Couple. And for,
Especially his problem.
I missed you.
Jerry.
yeah.
Yeah, I needed you.
You
Where were
bring
you?
everything in, but the kitchen sink. He brings the kitchen sink too. he brings every tool you could possibly need ever.
And his little Ranger.
He would have had extra spark plugs for it.
I think on top of that too, his true best quality is the fact that he just knows how to fix shit.
Yes.
I will say though, the one problem we did have, and with Chris's machine, we towed it in. You know, I was impressed with the fact that when John was working on it in the parking lot of the Canadian Tire, Greg, me, and Wayne were in getting supplies for him and using a bathroom. And
Of course.
but we came back out. That one guy approached and was giving you stuff, and he said, you know, and that was on a Sunday, I think.
It's on a Sunday.
And he
Yeah.
said, hey, I know the guy that owns a CF Moto dealership down the road. If you need me to call him for something,
Well,
we can get you in and get it fixed today.
and not only that, there were, as we were coming into that town, what was the name of that town?
I don't remember.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cut that. Anyhow, when we were coming into that,
I'll put it on the screen.
there you go. As we were coming into that town, a lady had stopped us. They were out in their Ranger, and she stopped us. And she also, her brother or brother-in-law, owned one of the shops.
Stevens Crossing.
Stevens
That's
Cross,
it.
yes.
There you go.
And
Steel trap.
I had to look through, I had to do the map in my head. It happened in
going through the
Serpentine
files.
Lake.
Yeah. And
Stevens
But she literally called and left him a message,
Yeah.
and then left him my name and my number, and gave me his number, of which I called him and left a message also. But she had said in his defense, I can't remember his name, or that he was out that day riding also, so she didn't know when he was going to get it. We were lucky enough, new spark plug and little ether, we got that thing running. And
He did call you back,
Yeah,
though, didn't
he
he?
did.
Eventually he did, but but we had already gotten it going,
Right.
and we were.
And that was the whole theme of this whole trip. Everywhere we went, we had people talking to us, offering help to us, information, whatever.
Just finding out who we were and
it
what we were
was
doing there.
unbelievable to see how the Canadians were
Yeah.
to us.
We got a bunch of subscribers out of Canada that week, too.
Yeah.
Like to
And
have
then-
some more.
Handing out some cards and some stickers, and
You got stickers?
I've got a few left, yeah.
Any other equipment that you think is a necessity that someone should take?
I don't know if it's a necessity, but something I did that turned out, I think, in the end to be really smart is I took a 14-inch piece of pipe, or 14-inch diameter piece of pipe, and capped both ends of it, stuck my tent in that pipe, and then put the cap on. And it turned out to be, I think, in my benefit, because if not, I would have had it strapped to the top of my vehicle, and when we went through those elders, I probably would have ripped my tent all up. So I protected my tent by sticking it in a tube.
And Greg and I use tubs, and Rob to a certain extent used to, but now you've got some other equipment.
Yeah,
we use tubs that are waterproof. We Husky
From Home Depot.
from Home Depot, and which, by the way, lifetime warranty on those.
And we did have to replace the one tub when it fell off of my ride. It cracked the bottom of it. We got it taped up to finish the trip. Took it right back to Home Depot. They didn't ask any questions.
But
We'll get another one.
Yep. But we strap them in the back, and as hard as it rained, I had nothing get wet.
Yeah, and I picked up a tip off of Northwood's Family YouTube channel. A couple and their kids out of Wisconsin. He uses Cabela's dry bags. So I bought their biggest dry bag. Phenomenal. It's worth every penny you spend on it. You would think it's more expensive. I forget how many liters it was, but it fit across my whole rack, and I put a ton of stuff in it. I carried stuff for 3 boys. Me, my 2 boys, and it kept everything dry. And I set it on top through the elders like you. Not a problem with it. Heavy duty.
Now, talking about the rack for storage, you're using the Beaver Concept rack. And I know you just got a bigger top for yours for a spare tire, but I think that was not necessarily for a spare tire, but you carrying equipment for 3 people. If it was just you, would the rack that you had before been enough?
Oh yeah, yep, plenty.
Which is now on Wayne's.
Yeah,
machine.
Wayne's got that. And the whole spare tire conversation, it's you gotta think where you're going to. I felt in the way my machine was set up, tire jacked, having plugs, having a stuff for the sidewall,
Compressor.
compressor there, and having bead locks. Bead locks to me, basically if you got a flat somewhere and you couldn't repair it, you can run that bead lock and it'll stay on the rim. And the tires are like run flat tires at that point. And we could have got to the next place to get the repair done, but you watch all those videos on YouTube, and a lot of people pick up those railroad spikes and can't get enough plugs in it because the railroad spike is a big thing.
I mean, I caught one when we were in Michigan, and it took 5 plugs.
Yeah.
And there's, you're not supposed to put 5 plugs in, but it took 5.
So that's
and
a
it helped.
decision you got to make on. We all chose not to. We got lucky, but if I had to do it all over again, I'm not going to buy a spare. I don't think. I think I'm going to rely on the stuff that I use: plugs, the tire jack, and the fact that I have bead locks. And the tires I put on it now are low PSI tires.
And the other thing is, there was enough people riding around there. We probably would have been able to find a tire to get on there.
Yep.
Well, it'd been nice if Mater wouldn't have come with us.
Yeah.
Turn his ride into a tow truck.
Yeah.
So Wayne, what was your favorite thing about the trip?
And I think I said this in one of the other videos. The amount of time I got to spend with my son, just me and him. It was a guy's trip. He just turned 16 years old, so he was only 15 at the time. So I love spending that time with him and the machine. once you're over there and you're out on the trails, you don't have much in the way of internet, so kind of forced him to have to talk to me. And then other than that, I think Serpentine Lake was my favorite place that we stayed, and woke up the following morning, just a beautiful view, and as quiet can be, dark as dark can be. There's nothing out there, no lights, no nothing. It was absolutely serene.
What about you, Greg? What was your favorite thing?
Well, I enjoyed the whole trip.
I agree.
To be honest, I think what I appreciated was that there were times that we felt like we're in the middle of nowhere, but the people that we encountered seemed to be everywhere, right? And they'd stop us on the middle of the trail just to BS with us. So you never really felt like you were off in the middle of nowhere, even though you kind of were.
And even if you didn't know where they were going, they could point you in the right direction. Yeah.
How about you, John?
My favorite, I'm going to kind of piggyback off of that. My favorite thing really was the people that we met. I mean, they were phenomenal. They were super nice. You don't find that in most places, and it was just enjoyable. Like when we talked to the mayor that one night, I mean, he just went on and on. He was so proud of his town and what they had accomplished and what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I agree. I was with Chris and he's my son, and I really enjoyed that time with him. But I think one of the most, just the landscape, just the whole trip, the landscape and the things we saw. I mean, the states have beautiful areas also, and we've seen some of those, and we're going to see more as we travel more. But it was a unique landscape that was phenomenal. How about you, Rob?
Well, I want to try to do something different, but it's hard to get away from the fact that, like what you two said, Wayne and John, about both my boys went, and they really enjoy this stuff too, so they grew up with it. But that's time I can't get back. It's not sitting around the house, whatever. Like Wayne said, there's nothing else but us there. And then the other thing would be neighbor beeping over there. The other thing would be the fact that I got to do it with you guys.
Yep.
Not to get sentimental or anything, but when you start getting older, you have a lot of friends when you're young because you know a lot of people. But as you get older, your friends kind of the circle, the people that you can trust, the people that you could, when you do something like this, you can't be just casual friends and do this because you're in tight quarters. It takes a lot of planning, a lot of work. You got to pitch in and help each other. So I think being able to do that with you guys after all the setbacks from COVID and stuff, because this was the number one trip that I wanted to do when we first started into side-by-side stuff. So, yeah. And again, the stops and the people, all that is, and I can point to individual things, but every stop was great. There was something unique about everywhere we went that made the trip, life-changing. I tell everybody life-changing. Would I do it again? Absolutely, 100%. If I could leave tomorrow,
we've talked about it.
Yep. Like taking our wives next time.
Yeah.
So it was that good of a trip that I would take my wife for that many days across the island of Newfoundland. Sorry, honey.
I take my wife, no problem.
Now our wives may not willingly go because they tend to like the centralized hub of where we're staying, so we have a camp to come back to every day.
Like when we go to West Virginia.
But I think if they were put in that environment and saw what we saw and experienced what we saw, that whole hub thing would go out the window. I think everyone, knowing our wives like I do,
yes,
yeah, they like to do that, just have a nice, comfortable, but it's definitely a life-changing trip.
Because every morning you woke up with the anticipation of you're going to see something that you've never seen before, and it's going to be unique. And
caribou, moose,
bear. All right, I'll start here and go with the dislikes.
Yeah.
Dislikes, number one dislike for me, the amount of time it took us to get to the ferry.
Oh, from Ohio.
I used to be able to drive 24 hours straight. The older I get, I get like apprehensive after a couple hours in the truck. So the big dislike would be the part of the planning I couldn't get done where we would have somebody haul our machines up there and we could take our time getting up there and have the machines delivered or even fly. And because we wasted 2 days, I don't say wasted because we're on the road with each other, but you're in a car for 26 hours, basically. That's how long it took us. And there's just not a whole lot to do or talk about. We got into Boston late.
Yeah, every time we stopped on the trip, it was late.
Yeah, but knowing what was at the end of that 2-day trip made it tolerable. But
Absolutely.
So if we decide not to bring our machines because we don't want to have to haul them there and take that 26 hours, they have places to rent machines, yeah?
yeah, but
Then you're going to have to get the machine back there.
and we talked about that,
You know.
and part of it is the work that we put all. Everybody's put work in their machine, and you're proud of what you've done, and it's like I love the fact that I got the machine that I got, and what I put on it, and what I can do. You guys, I'm sure, all the same way, but ideally, what it would be, we'd get one big trailer, haul all our machines, or have somebody haul them for us.
Yeah.
Going to Canada was the downfall, and then it's cost prohibitive. But considering what we spent on gas, overall, because I did all the financial stuff on the trip, and it cost us more money in the state getting from Ohio to Canada before we even boarded the boat than it did all the days across the island.
Yeah,
what
I'd
we
say
spent.
when we were in Canada, the American dollar was pretty strong, and so
And everything was cheap. I mean, what we did was cheap, and it was more expensive for the drive up and the drive back than it was all the
Absolutely.
days on the island. So
Speaking of money, you want to make sure that you exchange your money for Canadian money. A lot of the Canadians that have businesses will take the dollar, but not at the same exchange rate.
They do it a 1-for-1. It's you lose out.
yeah,
so I
that's one
tried
thing
to,
I didn't
tried
know.
to do credit card when I could, but I also had cash on me also.
So that's my dislike. On the island itself, no dislikes whatsoever.
Yeah,
None.
my only dislike, and it's unavoidable, was all the rain that we were getting, especially in the beginning when we're so geeked up about the trip, and then we started hitting some rain and everything, and it was like nonstop. I did not enjoy that. However, I enjoyed being on the island, and I knew that was just something that we possibly could face. And then Chris's machine getting flooded out and us having to tow it for a while. That wasn't necessarily a bright spot of the trip, but you know what? It's all a learning experience, and
Adapt and overcome.
Yeah, and for he and I mean, we had to work through it, and people help and whatever, and actually we got the thing running again, so that was great.
Greg, what about you?
Well, I think for me, it's not just indicative of Newfoundland. It's anytime we've done these overlanding trips is the miles. You want to stick to, in our case, we've established about 70 miles is a good day. On those 125 mile days, to me, that's miserable, because by the time that you get to where you're going, you don't feel like cooking, you don't feel like setting up your camp, you don't feel like talking to anybody, and you're right back at it again the next day. So Rob did a nice job this time of minimizing those 125 days, or 125 mile days. We were stuck for 2 days, right?
The one was just a long leg in between, but the real long day was because we altered that route, and part of it was we got into the plane crash, and the elders were the worst anywhere on the island, right there.
Yeah.
We called it the birth canal.
Yeah, it was
Wayne
the
said,
birth canal.
I think Wayne said at the top, you could not. If Wayne's machine was where he is now across from me, I couldn't see him because they were. You basically just saw the ground in front of you, and everything else was alders. But
If you get a chance to look at the video, you'll see where we started and where we stopped each day. And on those days where we limited it to 70 miles or less, and one day we did only 54 miles, which was, to me, that was a fabulous day.
Yep.
It gave us more time to enjoy the scenery, to enjoy the conversations with the people, to get your laundry caught up or whatever. So you want to take a look at the number of miles that you're driving in a day.
And then you have to weigh what you want to do, what you want to see. We easily could have added 3 or 4 more days of that
Oh, yeah.
and cut back on mileage and seen more things.
Yeah.
Especially on the West Coast, there was a lot of stuff there, and we, had to pick and choose what we wanted to see.
That's why we're going to go back.
Yeah.
And that's even at that, we spent 10 days on the island, right? I mean, and to say we could have spent 3 or 4 more easily, that tells you, like, we really could have, spent a lot of time there. We missed so much just because of only having 10 days.
Wayne, what was your probably number one dislike of the trip?
The ride home, not only the ride home, but the ferry ride back. I did not like the ferry ride back, and the only reason I did not like the ferry ride back is because I knew it was over.
Yeah.
It was like the big letdown. Like,
Yep.
man, I can't believe we're done.
We were up on the deck up there, and the boat's pulling out.
Yeah.
And we're saying, and it was dark out already when we were pulling out, and it's like, shoot, it seems like we just got here.
And it sure did. It seemed like we had just gotten there.
The only other thing I would say is, it's been said 100 times here. We appreciate everybody that follows us. Again, I don't think we even thought we'd get to where we are subscriber-wise.
Right.
It was just kind of a novel thing. Hey, let's buy a GoPro and start recording what we do. And our first videos were god awful. We didn't know what the hell we were doing.
Our last videos got awful too.
But we are getting better. All right. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Ring that bell.
We out.
Not done yet adventures.
Woo! We out. Oh, right there. Not done yet.
Jerry, Wayne, and Greg was a threesome. You get a better deal.
He says, don't stop here and pee. Wait, we only got a little bit farther to go, and then we got to go down all them damn rocks. I think I peed myself.